Buddy, Jim Feist in Las Vegas, along with Andy Iskoe. And this is Money Management Lesson number 3. And the subtitle of the show is Creating Positive Expectations, which means, correct me if I'm wrong, Andy, but we're talking about how to use your bankroll for fun and profit.
Isn't there an I missing in positive? Between the
It's
T and the
there.
V?
It's there. Oh, positive. Oh, there is an I missing.
Yeah.
There is TIVE. Yeah, it's
Yes.
missing. We'll have that corrected. But so last time we were speaking about contests in Las Vegas. I'm really excited about introducing and discussing how people can, the basic of money management is your bankroll is X, and you're going to bet 2% of your bankroll on each individual bet. But there are complications to that, because we're talking about, are you going to take part of your bankroll and put some of that money into contests? For example,
or by the way, any other thing that has season-long value that ties up part of that bankroll,
like
whether it be season win totals or to win a division contest. And the one we're going to talk about, I think it's a little bit different, but it's still, do you tie up part of your bankroll, and should be a limit on how much, and what guidelines you should use making that decision?
And for every individual, it's going to be different. I mean, if your betting bankroll is $500, you're obviously not going to tie up very much of it to enter a contest that's going to eat up. But if your money management, if your bankroll is 50,000 or
by the way, let me just interrupt for a section for the people here in Las Vegas. There actually are contests with relatively small, and I'm talking like $25 entry fees. That's, if that is a small bankroll, that is something you can do. And there are some of these contests that for a small entry fee, they actually have weekly prizes that you can win in addition to the season long. But I don't think that's going to be the thrust really of what we're going to be going into.
I think there's, I think what contest is a 25 entry, and you pick the games again, not against the spread, but just the winners.
William Hill has one that goes back, I think, to the old Leroy days or something.
Did the Red Rock have one also?
They have a last man standing contest. They did have one years ago. I forget what they called it, but you picked every game a week straight up, and they had that was the one, I think, where they had houses as like the first prize. And the old urban legend is that one year a lady won the house for the most winners, and the following year she won the house for the most losers, because they paid out both. But they pay out incremental amounts, and some years they did it in free play, some years they did it in cash and things like that.
So they don't do that anymore?
Well, they don't have that contest. William Hill, which is available nationwide, and I don't know if they have it nationwide contest or it's just in Vegas. They have an entry fee of $25. You pick 15 games per week in the NFL. So if there are weeks where there are some buys, they'll throw a couple of totals in there, overs and unders. And they have weekly prizes and a season long. I think they pay the top 5 or something. And usually the overall prize pool is worth over $1 million. But the thing is that if you buy 4 entries for $25, they give you a 5th entry for free. I think that's I know they do that in the station's last man standing. I'll get to in a moment. But I think in William Hill, I think it's if the first 5 entries you buy, you pay for 4. The 5th one is free. So it's basically $20 per entry for $100. And you pick the 5 games, you pick the 15 games or events, because totals will be in there straight up, and they have a weekly prize that usually you have to go 14-1 or 15-0, but they share the weekly prize. I think it's like a $10,000 weekly prize. So if you happen to be there in a week where there are some upsets and you pick some of those upsets, maybe you go 14-1 and can split 13-2 on occasion as well, depending upon the magnitude of the upset involved. Station Casinos for many years has run one. College football, pro football, and the NCAA basketball tournament, last man standing, which is like a Survivor, where they let's use the NFL it's a regular season. It's $25 entry fee. There, if you buy 4 entries for $100, you get a 5th entry for free. So that again is $20 $20 per entry, one for the college, one for the pros, and you pick one game a week. This one is against the spread. The William Hill one, that $25 one, is straight up over under or the winning team. The Stations contest that they've run probably about 10, 15 years now at least, is you pick one game a week. And the NFL and the colleges are separate. So you pick one game a week against the points. You are not limited, because it's a point spread contest. You are not limited like you are in like Circus Survivor to using a team only once. You can use it as many times as you want because you're picking against the spread, not straight up. And the thing with that contest is that that one usually goes about 10 or 11 weeks. They do have a thing that they guarantee, I think, $150,000 for the NFL winner, $75,000 for the college winner. And I think they add like $250,000 if in the unique situation where some individual wins both. But that's a low end contest that is available. And again, even if it's a $500 bankroll and you take a fifth of it, tie it up for the season, you've got something to root for every week. Okay, and that adds to some of the fun, especially for people who don't bet a lot or bet a lot of games or a lot of money, and you want to see the bankroll grow. That low end contest has you in action on most games every week.
Andy, we have to realize it's 330 million people in the United States, roughly, and not everybody has availability to these contests we have in Vegas, unless they come here and sign up and get a proxy. You are a proxy. There are several proxies, but like Mark Lawrence and myself use you as a proxy because we know you, and we know you do a good job, and you're very accurate with what you do. Before, one of the things we will do in this show is we'll give out your information for people to contact you, but we also want to say that there's going to be other contests, like there's companies like FanDuel and DraftKings and BetMGM, and there's other ones, and I don't know how many, but there's a lot of states that now have legalized gambling that people don't have to come to Vegas to bet, and they don't have to come to Vegas to enter contests.
And they don't have to go anywhere because they do those contests online.
Correct.
Because a lot of these, sports betting sites are not brick and mortars.
Do they? That's interesting.
I mean, some are, some have corporate buildings, and others aren't. But a lot of states now allow you to allow you to bet by the internet.
How do they put up their money?
Just the way they put up their betting accounts.
So they they don't have to go to a location and put up money. They can do it over the internet.
Yeah. Oh yeah, by a debit card, credit card, whatever. They make because not every state not every state has a brick and mortar operation. I think most do, but again, I'm not that familiar with it because we're here in Vegas, and let's put it this way: it's not like using a bookmaker where it's all on credit.
Okay.
Or a lot of it is on credit.
Well, what the offshores have. They do offer some people credit accounts, but most other people don't.
Yeah.
So the one thing about the contest here in Las Vegas that excites me, because it goes back a long way when they started these, I was always against the fact that 1,000 people or 2,000 people would enter a contest and only the top 10 would win any money. I was always against that idea because I played a lot of poker tournaments, and they pay a lot deeper with the idea that they want more people to have a chance of winning back their entry fee and having a little bit more fun. The way when you set up, you have a $2,000 people entry and only pay top 10, which you're basically saying the other people other than the 10 are all guaranteed to be losers.
Yep.
Which is not a good marketing plan in my mind, and I never liked that. However, that's all we had until the circuit came along, and the circuit said, "No, we're not going to do that, and we're going to have."
Well, they did, but they have two separate contests. They have one that is like that, but the unique one we're going to talk about is something that many people throughout the country who bet sports, whether it's legally or otherwise, have had some familiarity with. It's basically, well, go ahead and explain.
Well, I wanted to talk about the mini contests because
Oh, okay.
it
Yes.
gives everybody a
Yeah.
chance to win. Like the first season, okay, the first week is September, and you put your 5 picks in, and you're 0-5, and then the next week you're 1-4. Now you're 1-9 for the 2 weeks, and you say, "Damn, there's no way I'm going to win this contest. My picks are terrible." And even if you went the rest of the season and did okay, it might be hard for you to catch up. But now they put in these mini contests, which I think are fantastic for marketing and fantastic for the people, because they'll have 3-week contests, 4-week, 6-week, and but this, I'm going to let you up to explain this, because now the Westgate has a lot of that, and so does Circa. So they're the ones that gets me excited, because it brings people back. It keeps them involved. Now, if DraftKings and FanDuel and the other states that do have those kind of mini contests along the way during the season, they will also keep their players involved and excited, because even if you start out bad, you can hit that middle. Yeah, you can find ways to massage it and make it even better, but we're going to live with what we have. The rules that we have today is what we want to talk about. So now that I've introduced that, Andy, you're the expert. Tell us what goes on with this.
Okay, you're basically talking about, the Westgate, which actually had a form of what you were saying many, many years. The Westgate came in with what they call the Super Contest. In fact, now, because they've got a couple of them, this one I think I refer to as the Super Contest Classic, because it's the original one. In fact, back at the beginning, in the first few years, you actually made 7 picks a week instead of the current 5. Of course, we've had a few more teams in the league since the late 1980s, but nonetheless, the Westgate Super Contest, and I think we talked a little bit about it when we did our special on the Circa contests last week, which we'll do one on the Westgate once all the rules are out and we're familiar with what's going on. But the concept is basically simple and similar. The Super Contest involves a static point spread for all games being played that week. So let's say it's a full 16-week schedule like it is in week 1. And you enter the contest, you choose any 5 of those team games that you want, and you pick a point spread winner, which one of the 2 teams involved will cover the points, and you get for your 5 picks. So if you go 3-2, you get a pick you get 1 point for a win, you get a half point for a push, and you get 0 points for a loss. So let's say you go 2-2-1. So there was 1 push in there, you would get 2.5 points. 1 point for each of the 2 wins, and a half point for the push. And by the way, not that people would want it, other they would think about it late in the season. If they're up close and they want to sort of protect things, you are not allowed to pick both sides in the same game and guarantee yourself a half point. That is prohibited at any point during the season. Now, the contest that we're talking about, and both the Westgate and the Circa Millions, they also have the Survivor contest, which we'll talk about at some other point and a little bit more, give you some history of as far as how that can be used to create a positive expectation during the season. But for the basic contest, both the Westgate and the Circa have these in-season contests, but it started a long time ago, where probably when the schedule may have been just 16 weeks, but it's an 18-week schedule now. The Westgate would have the full season contest, and then they would also have what they would call a mini contest, which offered first a $10,000, and then they upped it to $15,000 for the contestant or contestants or entries, let's call it that had the best record over the final 3 weeks of the regular season. So that if you were out of the regular contest, and you maybe by week 10 or 11, you know that you're out of it, you wait for the final 3 weeks. In fact, you spend your time handicapping more for the final 3 weeks to have a chance at the mini contest than you do on a week-to-week basis, even though you may still submit your selections, and maybe you get lucky, you get a nice little run and somehow get in contention. But the point is that it gave people interest for the end of the season. So the Circa started something when they first came in, and the Westgate sort of piggybacked and I won't say improved upon it, but I guess you'd say it. If you're offering more contests, that's an improvement. What the Circa did was they introduced quarterly contests. So they separated the 18-week schedule into, well, not quite 4 even quarters. First 4 weeks, next 5 weeks, next 4 weeks, next 5 weeks. And each of those 4 segments, the 4 and 5 week segments, were a contest in and of themselves, okay, or in of itself, because I talked about each. Got to use my grammar correctly here when I can. But nonetheless, so if you had the best record for the first 4 weeks of the contest, I think this year, I think they're paying like $150,000 or $160,000 for each quarterly winner. Okay,
just think about that. You
yeah.
put up $1,000 to enter this contest. I think it was 1,000 or 1,500.
Yeah, 1,000 on this one. Yeah.
Okay, and you just in that little segment, you could pick up. You maybe a tie with somebody, and it's 75 each. Or you win the whole thing. It's 100. Maybe it's 4. It's 37.
They pay the top 5 places descending. I think it used to be 4. Now it's 5. But I would say, and I was in contention for one of those 3 or 4 week contests a few years ago. Ended up doing a nice little hedge because I was on the wrong side of the game that I needed to win on the Monday night. But that's part of the strategy, by the way, in these contests. Sometimes you want to be able to hedge yourself if it's a weekly prize or a quarterly prize, and it's coming down to
guaranteeing yourself a profit is not a way to go broke. It's a
exactly. So you could be in that position where you need the Raiders on Monday night to tie or win outright a quarterly prize. So you make a bet on the Chargers plus the points because you've already got the Raiders covered and creates yourself something there. But
hypothetically, you have $5,000 to gamble the whole season.
Right.
Hypothetically. And now let's forget the fact not everybody lives in Vegas, and they have books around the country now that you can play. Should you be betting? How much should you allocate? I guess it's what your goal is. How much should you allocate to a contest? How much should you be betting parlays and teasers? How much, and should you bet on how much can you? Now, granted, there's a lot of professional bettors that say you should never bet a parlay and you should never bet a teaser.
Right.
And there's other ones that say, yes, they're very beatable. And if you bet parlays properly, you can beat them. You can bet teasers properly. You can beat it. This is where the educational part of what we're doing is. Here's a guy with a bankroll of $2,000. And he's going to bet. We know that we've said don't bet any more than 2% on a straight bet. Okay.
Well, by the way, that's what you do when you decide. You used 5,000 before because it was as a bankroll.
I'll do whatever it is.
Well, it's easier for the numbers because let's say you decide you want to enter one of these Vegas contests or wherever that's similar, where it's a season-long contest. Maybe there are in-season tournament, whatever. Let's say you would decide you want to do an entry in the Circa Millions. Okay, pick 5 games a week, or the Circa Survivor for that matter. But that other, not complication, but other aspects of it that we can talk about. But let's say you want to enter the Circa Millions where you make 5 picks a week. You got a $5,000 bankroll.
That's $1,000 entry.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So what you do is what it means you would be doing according to the way that you outlined it, which is correct. Or for many people, let's say. I do not like absolutes. I try to avoid using the word always and never because those are absolutes. I'd say usually or rarely because that allows for it doesn't have to be 0 or 100. But let's say you do invest. You want to play the contest, so you take $1,000 of your bankroll, and now that's tied up in the contest. So basically, your weekly wagering bankroll is now $4,000. So you take your 2% of the $4,000 as your unit. Okay, whether you allocate it to teasers or parlays, I don't know that you want to allocate a specific percentage to parlays and a specific percentage to teasers and a specific percentage to straight bets because the season unfolds differently. And some weeks you may feel more confident in maybe just 2 or 3 straight bets. And so that's what you want to bet. Other weeks you may say, you know what, I like these 3 teams, but I'm not liking them all that great. So maybe I'll put them in a parlay or maybe I'll teaser them or maybe I'll do a 2-team teaser and something else like that. So I think when you talk about the percentage of bankroll, I would look at it, and I generally do, as a unit, as a unit, regardless of the type of play you make on a week-to-week or game-to-game basis. So that would be what, 2% of 4,000 would be $80. An $80 unit bet.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah.
Now, the whole idea of this is, and for most people, 99% of people out there, they're not looking to make a living betting sports. they have a job. Hopefully they have a job and they have enough money on the table to feed their families and pay their mortgage. I know that's not the case for everybody, but I'm trying to be kind of general here.
Yeah.
So the idea is we got a 20-week season and playoffs. And you want to be around at the end to enjoy and to have a few dollars on the Super Bowl and your college playoffs, et cetera, because you got college as well. And so you want to manage the number that you have so that you can last the full season and you're not sitting on the sidelines week 6 and have no money to play. And then you're tempted to dip into your family money, which you don't want to do. So that's where I'm coming from, is more of a defensive standpoint. How do we get everybody through to the end? Well, we can't get everybody through to the end because there's no perfect answer for everybody. But in my case, if I'm going to bet a parlay, and I've mentioned this before, it's usually a 3-team parlay because it's closest to the real odds.
Yeah, 2 or 3. They're both very close. Once you get above 3, you're giving away way too much.
Correct. Now, when you're talking about teasers, there are, is it the Wong theory, the theory of betting teasers properly, where you're looking for live numbers, the 3 and the 4, the 6 and the 7, and
if you can tease up like a +1.5, let's say a 6-point teaser where there's the least vig, +1.5 to +7.5, or the reverse. Okay, you've got the numbers 3, 4, 6, and 7 covered, which are, I think, 4 of the top 5 common numbers. I think 10 is one of them as well.
Now you're covering what is the most expected result of a game. So
which means you're covering probably about 30 to 40%, or I'll say 30 to 35% of all possible outcomes. In other words, 30 to 35% will land on one of those 4 key numbers.
The other thing is, let's throw an example out there. You have the Patriots are a 1-point favorite, and they're at home, and you like the Patriots. So this is something you probably don't want to.
Exactly. If I think I know where you're headed.
You don't want to cross 0, because when you cross 0,
you're giving up a number.
You're giving up a number. Now you're hurting your value is going. Yeah. Creating positive.
You're basically playing a 5. You're playing a 5-team teaser because 0. Let's say it comes in once or twice a year. Where a game ends on time. You're basically playing a 5-team teaser, but you're laying a 6-team teaser vig. Because obviously, the more points you have, the more expensive the price is to pay the teaser. You're going to lay, let's say, 120 on a 6-team teaser. You may lay 130 on a 6.5, and you may lay 140 on a 7-point teaser. Okay. Well, if you're giving up 0, you're reducing that by 1. So I don't know if there is a 5-point teaser, but let's say it'd be -110, which is what.
So how would you? Okay. So now the Patriots are playing Pittsburgh, and they're big. I mean, this wouldn't happen because they probably wouldn't be favored. But let's say the Patriots are home; they're 1-point favorite over Pittsburgh, and you like the Patriots, and you want to put them in a teaser. You really can't,
right?
You can't, because you can't.
Well, you can, but you shouldn't.
You shouldn't. Yeah, you can, but you shouldn't. You're playing. You said it. You're getting a 5-point teaser, playing a 6-point price.
Yeah.
So in that case, how would you bet? Would you just bet the Patriots -1, bet your 2%, and be done with it? Or is there some other way you would bet that game?
Well, you could bet it on the money line, where instead of laying -110, laying 1, you might lay -125 or -130 just to win the game. I don't have the charts handy as to translate equivalent lines into the money lines.
It wouldn't be that high at -1.
Some of the offshore online books that cater to the let's call it not the lazy public, but the uninformed public might be able. No, there's a difference between a 10-cent line and a 20-cent line and a 30-cent line, and so you might end up playing paying a higher vig than you would. But let's say that you can lay 120 or 125. They'll put that in a little extra juice for the Patriots just to win the game. You
I
could
think in,
do
I
it that
think in
way.
that case, I would advise people, okay, if you got -1 at -110, I would just go ahead and lay the one -110. I'm not going to.
Worst you do is if the
It's
Patriots win the
push.
game, the worst you do is push.
Correct. I'm not going to lay
Unless the
120.
game ends up in a tie, which happens like once or twice a season.
I'm not going to lay 120, 125, or 130 to get rid of the 1 point.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be ridiculous to do that, because
-2 might be a different story,
two
only
is an
because
ugly
of the
number.
2-point conversion
That's exactly
at the end
true.
of the game.
The one doesn't bother me, but the 2, 2.5, 3, 4, they all bother me. Now
Yeah.
I'm getting.
In other words, let me just say, I would rather take +2 than +1. Obviously, you would. I would rather take them if I like the other side of that New England game, and I got +1. I'd rather take the money line.
Well, if you like the other side of the game, then your teaser does come into
Yes,
play.
then it does. Yes.
Okay,
But then you're
because
going
now
over.
you're taking +1 and you're moving it up to +7.
7, 7.5, or 8. We'll use 6, 6.5, or 7. But all numbers, even the 5, which has a small percentage of landing, still works for you.
Correct. Okay. So now, let's say, now this is I talk to a lot of people and they have all different philosophies. And the thing about being in Vegas and having the people, we do what we call the Dom DeMarco Pizza Show every week. The people that are on there are all professional.
Very sharp.
They're very sharp. They're not professional gamblers. They're professional winners.
Yeah.
It's one thing to be a gambler. It's another thing to be a winner. These people are winners. So, but they all have different little philosophies. There's little idiosyncrasies in their mentality and what they're thinking, and they're not wrong. They're just different. So
what works for that? If you find something that works for you, I mean, look, you're betting the color of the uniforms and it works for you. That's just random luck. I mean, incredible random luck. But if you're using a method of analysis and wagering that works for you, keep at it. And I would say as long as the results aren't volatile, that you just happen to be on a nice little streak, but they're consistent results, then it's working for you.
Correct. So in these cases, we're looking to create a positive expectation. And the next time we do this, we're going to spell positive correctly. Because it would be a good idea to do that.
Well, by the way, we could create negative expectations and tell you to go the other way.
Well, yeah, that would
basically that's what a negative expectation is. It's what you're giving up to get the positive expectation.
You already have a negative expectation because you're laying
11 to 10,
91 cents.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. If you do it that way, yeah. So either way,
you already have a negative expectation when you make that bet. Now, a bigger player, somebody that's say betting 5, 10, 20,000 or higher, is not playing 110, because we negotiate with the bookmakers and we're paying 104 or 105, but we're playing such big numbers. We're able to negotiate and say, okay, I'll play with you and you'll be one of my outs, but I only will pay 104 or 105. I'm not going to pay 110. And you can negotiate the vig that you're paying where the smaller player can't. And some bookmakers take advantage of the smaller player, like in baseball, where there's some bookmakers that charge 120 on a baseball game where others are charging 110.
Yeah.
And if you're playing,
by the way, just as an illustration for the folks who may not be that familiar or listening to it for the first time, getting involved, a 10-cent line or -110, a 10-cent line means it's -105 either way. So or you could look at it as a 5-cent line, because the bookmaker would keep 5 if someone played both sides of the game, and he'd pay out 100 and he'd keep 105 from the other guy. But nonetheless, a 20-cent line would be -110, -110 in football, like in football. So a 30-cent line would be -115 each way, as a number of books that don't that don't give the player a fair shake. And remember, the percent at minus 110, the winning percentage is what, 52.3%, and it goes up from that on a 15-cent line and 20-cent line. And 52.2% doesn't sound like it's a lot. Try figuring it up. What that means, I'll use a simple example. Okay, if you make 100 bets and you hit 60%, okay, and laying 110, you will, and you'll say it's $100 units, you will collect
You're
$6,000.
You're a 14% winner.
Yeah, because you will have lost 6,600. I'm sorry, 4,400 to win the 6,000.
Correct.
So you have to count the VIG in there as part of the the cost of doing business. So, and 60% is not. It shows you what that is. 52.3% adds up quickly when you're giving up that 2.3% on the minus 110.
That's exactly right. So when you see an advertisement for somebody walking up to the window, we'll talk a little bit about this because it's bullshit. You can go on the internet and you see advertisements on every forum. I mean, whether it's Twitter or Facebook and you'll see these guys saying, I walk up to the window, I put down 500,000 and I walked away with $1 million or whatever it was. Bullshit. It ain't happening. I mean, if you're a big winner and a consistent winner with a bookmaker, they're going to ban you. They're going to limit you.
Yeah.
Sometimes they won't even let you walk into the building. A lot of times they'll just say, okay, you're betting $1,000 a game, but when you come in here, you can only bet $50 a game because we're tired of your action. There's no law that says they have to take your bet. So, and this is a real problem. I was at the gym yesterday and I'm talking to a friend who we're working out together. And this other guy overhears me and he says, yeah, that locale banned me last year. They wouldn't let me bet anymore. I said, you must have won too much. I said, the only way you can get around that is you have to open up multiple accounts and you can't beat the same guy all the time. Because if you do, they're not going to let you play. And there's online accounts just like that. If you beat them, I mean, there's one place, honest to God, that I have opened up 7 different accounts under 7 different beards. And I'm only allowed to play $500 a play. But each time I beat them, sometimes it's only for 1 week, they ban the account. And it gets tiring. You have to find somebody else to open another account under a different name. And it's just tiring. So there is a problem with this in this industry is nobody really has to take your bet. And the biggest bettors in the world, when I'm not going to mention names, the biggest bettor that we know of, who's very famous, has had to have beards. No, a beard is somebody that bets for you so that the book doesn't know that it's you that's making the bet. That's a beard. Well, he's been bearded out of every book in the world because he won so much money. And this happens all the time. So we're trying to overcome a lot of different things. Not only do you have to win, you have to get paid. That helps.
And you can't win too much.
Then you win too much, you're going to get banned. And I mean, there was a guy who went to the M. He's playing blackjack, and he won $5,000, and he never wins $5,000. They tapped him on the shoulder and said, "You can't play here anymore."
And that's blackjack.
That's blackjack.
Yeah. Even if you're counting $5,000 win, I imagine he wasn't betting huge numbers.
No, he wasn't, and he's normally he is a small player. He wasn't playing big. He was just had a hot day.
Yeah.
And, he was doing well and he's increasing his bets and he walked out 5,000 winner.
$5,000 is what a casino makes in about 10 minutes on slot machines.
It's because we've become a corporate society here.
Yeah.
They've not only done things like that, but they're now charging a room service fee.
Resort fee.
What's that?
Resort fee,
Resort
parking.
the parking's ridiculous. It's between $40 and $70 to park your car, even if you're inside the building for half an hour.
Using one of the restaurants or something. But basically, the way I describe it is the casinos are so greedy, they now force you to pay to lose your money by charging for parking.
They're going to eventually destroy the city and drive customers away because it's happening. We had a very, very small turnout for a couple of big events recently, and it's because the corporate greed. The pendulum always swings.
Now, there are some places in Vegas, by the way, that cater to the local community, the local economy, who don't charge for parking.
Well, like right down the street at Red Rock, they don't charge.
Yeah, exactly. And the places on the Strip, the big corporations, for years and years, they didn't charge for parking. And then some accountant or NBA came up with the idea, we can't think of anything creative to get people to come into our building, so let's just charge the ones who do. Let's charge them a parking fee because we're not creative enough to.
I just saw online this morning. It was one of the shows was carrying. They said Southwest Airlines just announced that they're going to charge baggage $45 for the first bag, $35 for the additional bag.
Yeah. No, I think they're charging less for the first one and more for the second one.
Okay,
I think or at least that's the report I heard. But I wouldn't be surprised if it was the other way around.
The bottom line is everything changes, and it's not always for the best. And it's usually not for the best for the consumer. So we're talking about sports betting. So
it's kind of like they'll serve you soup and they'll say, "Oh, by the way, would you like a spoon?" That'll be $5.
That hasn't happened yet, but I'm waiting for it. Here's one I want to. This is Proline TV on YouTube. We're going to broadcast this also on jimfeist.com. If you have any questions, please send us the questions. We will try to answer them privately. And if it's something we can answer on our next podcast, we'll do so. Yeah. But because we cannot answer everyone's question.
Well, it's not so much that, Jim. We cannot think of everyone's questions. There are a lot of things that we either take for granted or wouldn't think to ask that somebody knew, or somebody who may have had a unique experience that we're not aware of, that doesn't get over to into the media as some of those major conflicts do. That there may be a question that we've not heard before or not heard in a long time, and would benefit more than just the person who asks it. Unless the person who asks it says, just answer it to me. I don't want anyone else to know the answer.
The other thing is, Andy and I both run websites. We sell picks. JimFeist.com. I sell my picks on there. Andy has the logical approach. Yeah. The logical approach. And Andy is also a proxy. So if you want to enter any of the Las Vegas contests, you have to at least one time come to Las Vegas, meet with Andy, go to those locations, put up your money and sign up and make Andy your proxy. So when you're back in Cleveland or Tennessee or wherever you are, you simply send him your plays and he will put them in for you and he'll keep track of everything for you. Now, Andy, having said that, I want to also say that Proline TV on YouTube, all of this is free. We're not charging anything for this. Now, we may at some point in time have some upgraded information that we may charge small fees for down the road, but right now that's not today. And we may have memberships that you can join. That's not today. So if you have comments, questions, suggestions, send them to us. We're going to answer them and we're not going to charge you. So you can't get any better than that. Now, Andy, because we're into this already about 40 minutes, I want you to give out your information, your phone number, and your email address that people can contact you to set up a proxy situation should they want to. There's no requirement.
Right.
We're not trying to sell you anything.
Even if you just want to get details about the contest or, how does this thing work or whatever, I'm more than happy. Even if you even if you end up signing up and going with another proxy, I'm still happy to provide you with the information, because I've been doing these contests since I moved to Vegas in 1991. Every year since then, various contests that have come up, and I know the positives and the negatives. And for example, I'll just give you a very simple example. Should I enter the Westgate or the Circa? Okay, the Circa Millions, not the Survivor. That's a different contest. And my answer to that is, well, it depends. In the Westgate, your chances of cashing or winning the contest, let's say, are greater than they are in Circa, because Circa is going to have many more times the number of entrants. At the same time, if you cash in Circa, if you win the Circa contest, you're going to win $1 million. In the Westgate contest, you might win $200,000-$300,000, depending upon the size of the pool, because you're going up against fewer people, and therefore the prize pool is much less. So if you have any questions, sort of things like that, I do not try to steer people into one contest or another.
Then let me ask you a question, because there's an obvious that's clear what you just said. Which one gives you the best opportunity to win one of the minis?
Westgate. They have 11. I'll explain that very quickly. The Circa Millions has 4 in-season quarterly contests that we talked about before. They also have, remember, Jim, you talked about that 1 in 9 start. They also have what they call the booby prize, the contestant who picks the fewest winners over the course of a season. I forget what it is, 125,000 or something. There's also a single winner for the maybe there's second place for the season long as well. And for the quarterly contests, there's a single winner for whoever has the worst record during the quarter. And by the way, for those out there who think you know how to game it, you got to make selections every week. You can't just assume you're going. You don't get points for weeks you don't play, for games that you don't pick. So you don't get an automatic 0-5 if you don't put an entry in. So you have to play every week of the contest or of the mini contest or the full season to get that prize. Now, in the Westgate, they have 11 in-season contests in addition to the overall contest. They have 6 3-week contests, weeks 1 through 3, 4 through 6, etc. They have 3 6-week contests, 1 through 6, 7 through 12, 13 through 18. And then they have 2 9-week contests each half of the season, 1 through 9 and weeks 10 through 18. So that's 6 plus 3 plus 2. That's the 11 in-season contests. And again, you're going up again.
What does that contest cost to get in?
The Westgate decided they wanted to increase the prize pool so that they could pay out more for the first place prize. Circus paying guaranteed $1 million. For many years, the Westgate was a $1,500 entry fee. And actually, at one point in the early 2000s, they charged an administrative fee, which turned a lot of people away, and it declined. Several years ago, they took out that administrative fee. And then when Circa came in after a year or so, they lowered it to $1,000 to compete with the same price point of the Circa contests. And this year they've announced, and it's been public. You go to the Las Vegas Review-Journal website. They have an article up there from the beginning of May that talked about the changes and some of the contests, including a college contest. So the Westgate is the one that has the 11 contests. The Circa has the 4 in-season quarterly contests, which, in addition to the top 5 places, they also pay the worst record.
For my money, it would be. If I had a limited bankroll and I wanted to have more action and more chances to win, not necessarily the entire contest, but more chances to win you'd have in the Westgate because there's less people, and more chances because they have 11 in season where Circa has less. Yeah. To me, the best value is Westgate.
I will point out one thing, however. The Westgate, unless they changed it this year, and I haven't seen it, for many, many years, they paid off just the top 20. Now, for many, many years, and I'm talking like from, I think, 88 through like 2010, they would have between 250 and 525 contestants. So paying out 20 means you're paying, 10% of the field, in some years between 5 and 10%. When Circa came out, they said, we're going to pay the top 100 finishers, not knowing how many entries they had. So let's say this year the Westgate gets 1,500 entries. Okay, they're going to pay 20 out of the 1,500. Okay, in the Circa, you're going to pay 100 places, and let's say they get the 6,000 entries that they need to meet their guarantee. So you're going to pay 100 out of 6,000. and you're going to be paying greater amounts to the people in the circuit because the overall prize pool will be great. So that's a trade-off that people do have to think about when they're entering the contest. So if people have some questions, let me give you the web address, the email address, and the phone number. You can just shoot off an email or give me a call. Or text me if you want, although calls are better because it's a lot easier for a back and forth that way. The phone number is 702-898-9802, 702-898-9802. The web address, I'll give you not the logical address, I'll give you my email address that I use for proxying. VegasAndy711@cox.net. That's VegasAndy 711, all together, no spaces or underscores. VegasAndy711 Cox.net, and I'll get back to you and explain proxy, the results, the proxy fees, etc., the procedures that I use, and all that. I haven't put it up on the website for this year. I probably will in another few weeks, where you can go to the website and take a look at all the details, and it goes back into a lot of information that are included in the rules. And in fact, if you go to circasports.com, since their rules are already out, you can read the official rules for the 3 contests that they have. Circasports.com is the main website for the sports aspect of Circa, and then on that page they have links to the Circa Survivor, the Circa Survivor Grandissimo, which is the new high-end contest that they put in, and the Circa Millions, which is the Pick 5 contest. And then if you have any questions about the rules, you can give me a call and I can tell you what I think what the interpretation has been in the past.
The Westgate doesn't have a website like that?
No, they do, but they won't be posting their rules until July 1st. They may or may not still have the rules from 2024. They won't have the rules for the new contest that they're putting in this year, but they may have the rules still up there.
Do you have that address?
I go to I think it's Westgate Resorts, Las Vegas, and then there are links for
maybe people have the time, they could go in there and check it out.
Check out the rules from last year, because certainly for these, the only thing that may change that I know of is the entry fee will now be $1,500 instead of $1,000, unless they rethink that between now and July 1st, which is the key date for when they will have that information. And we'll do a segment like we did last week on the Circuit contest. We'll do one on the Westgate contest once those rules are official, and I can actually answer some questions and also point out some key differences, if there are any, between the past and the current.
There's a couple of things I want to announce, even though we're at 46 minutes, and I want to make sure we have to cut this off. We're going to be talking about prop betting down the road, because it's become the new thing. It's the new hot thing. Like Halliburton's going to have this many points, rebounds, assists, over and under prices. Brunson's going to have this in basketball. Football, they're going to throw this many interceptions or this many touchdowns. This guy's going to have so many yards. This was not always the case. This stuff wasn't always available. It's newer. A lot of people are doing it. The DraftKings and the FanDuels are making it much more popular than it ever was here in Las Vegas. And that's one aspect that we're going to start to try to cover. Another aspect that we're going to start to cover here, and we're talking about right here on Proline TV, and is fantasy sports, which is also big. I personally don't bet fantasy sports. I've never bet it in my life. But there's a lot of people that do, and they love it. And some people do very, very well. So we're going to start covering those aspects of betting as well. And this all goes into, and why I'm bringing it up in this, because all these things cost a little bit of money to enter and to play and everything else. And this is all part of and sucking on your bankroll. I mean, if you have that $5,000 bankroll, you're taking a little over here and a little over there and this. So it's all about, and you're going to have to make a lot of personal decisions about that. And if you want some advice on it, send us the questions, send us the comments.
We'll also talk about in-game betting, which has become a huge part of the betting environment over the last 10 years. And in fact, there are some people who don't make any pre-game bets, and they just make bets as the game unfolds, and they see what's going on. They see who's in foul trouble, see which guys aren't in sync, and they have opportunities. And in the NBA, that's perfect. There's no better example than the postseason. But the NBA has such large swings during the game that it is possible at points during the game you will be able to get money line plus prices on both sides.
I have a friend that bet under 245 last night.
Ooh.
In the and he wrote me, he says, I just bet under 245 for significant amount of money. And I said, that's a great bet. Sure enough, he lost the damn thing. Damn. I mean, it's just insane. I mean, the game went over by 30 points. So the posted total. So that's crazy. Andy, we got to cut it off. Anything you want to add before?
No, I got to get running a little bit, but I think we covered a lot. And again, we'll have more topics that we will predetermine that we're going to cover on these shows, but we certainly want to work your questions in there as well.
Well, here's what we're doing. We're taping this today, and it's going to be aired on Thursdays, and that's going to be our day. This money management lesson next week will be money management lesson number 4 will be aired on Thursday, and we're going to try to do that each and every week so we're consistent.
Yep.
Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon.